Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. After over 1.5 years of relative calm on the terror front, Hyderabad has suffered another terror strike, fourth in the last 11 years. The last major terror strike were the Mumbai serial blasts on July 13, 2011, which killed 26 people. Hyderabad toll as of now is 16 dead and over 100 injured. The blasts have raised a lot of questions about the motives as well as the effectiveness of the intelligence agencies, both at the center and the state. The statement of Home Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde that there are reports about such a possibility has only added to the concerns. Several speculations about the groups involved, the modus operandi employed, and the possible motives are doing the rounds. Interestingly, a Delhi police interrogation report of the so-called Indian Mujahideen operative by the Delhi police some months back has also leaked out. Why has the terror raised its ugly head again? Is there a direct connection between the Hyderabad strikes to the hanging of Afzal Guru a couple of weeks back, as some political parties are now claiming? Would it not be prudent for everyone to wait for the investigations to take some shape before speculating? We will discuss all this today with an eminent panel of guests: A.K. Verma, former Director RAW, retired Commodore Uday Bhaskar, Security Analyst and Senior Fellow National Maritime Foundation, and Vinay Kumar, Senior Assistant Editor at The Hindu. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Verma, coming to you first. Did yesterday's strikes, surprise you, or is it something which should have been expected?
No, they were not a surprise in the sense that they are one episode in a series of episodes which have been taking place and which will continue to take place, I'm sorry to say. It's really unfortunate, but we have systematic failures over which no remedies seem to be possible. There are lacunae in the constitutional system which creates problems of this nature.
But if you're talking of a lacuna in the constitution, can you elaborate on that?
Yes, police is a state subject which gives no authority to the central government to oversee investigation, direct policy, insist on coordination. They are absolutely at the mercy of the state governments, who may or may not agree to whatever suggestions might be made by them. And frequently it is heard that those governments in the state which don't belong to the ruling family at the center are unwilling to follow the guidance given by the center.
But in this case, sir, that both the central government and the state government is run by the same political party.
Yes, you're quite right. Now, this is one major systemic failure to which I have pointed. The other systematic failures are, number one, lack of coordination, because there is no data bank which can be accessed by everyone. There is no common policy which can be determined. In fact, there is no national policy on terror. The NCTC, which was mooted by the center, hasn't moved an inch forward.
Hasn't taken off. And that
Not an inch forward.
And that is mainly because of the opposition of the state governments.
Right, you are. So who's going to insist that certain policy be followed? They're just not followed. And what is the result thereof? Maoism,
sir,
we are not making any progress on Maoism.
Sir, in this specific case, what happened in Hyderabad yesterday, very interestingly, the Home Minister says that there was information about such things happening in not just in Hyderabad, in other places also, but they say that we didn't have specific. How does this happen? How does this information go out? From where do the center is saying that it had some information? What kind of information do you think they had or they would have had?
Before I answer your question, I want to draw your attention to the fact. What is the police-public ratio in our country? It is around 117 per lakh of population, yes, where international standards are 240 per lakh of population. One fact. Second fact, among the people so deployed, this depleted police strength which is there, how is it utilized? In Delhi alone, every VIP has 3 people looking after the security of that VIP, whereas for the general population, there is one for over 700.
Right.
Now, if you keep these facts in mind, what is the counter security that you can give to the people or use for monitoring such situations? Very little. The result is that when the government of India receives some information and it passes on, generally it is not specific because such information cannot be specific.
It cannot be actionable intelligence.
It cannot be actionable in the sense that you identified an individual and a place where that individual is located, and so you move. In that sense, action not actionable, because this kind of information in a problem of this nature, terrorism, is very difficult. All cells of terrorists are very difficult to penetrate, not only by us or in this country, anywhere in the world.
Right.
So we must be aware of this fact that locating specific information is a very, very difficult task. So the information which comes is generally only indicative, and that is passed on. Now it is for the states concerned to develop that information.
Okay. We'll come back. There are several other things which need to be discussed. Let me go to Commodore Uday Bhaskar. Uday Bhaskar, see the government of India is saying that we had intelligence, we had passed it on, but it was not actionable. It was not specific intelligence. These are things which we keep hearing all the time, because before any major event happens in this country, say a Republic Day or a Independence Day, this kind of intelligence very normally flows from the center to the states. Now in this case, you think there was anything, because in the light, we have been reading since yesterday and we have been watching that there was some interrogation of a suspected Indian Mujahideen by the Delhi police, and that interrogation report is now out in the public domain. It says that they had said that they had done some recce of these places in Hyderabad. So how do you think there was any lapse on the part of the intelligence or in the flow of information to the states about this, if it is true?
Well, I think the first observation, Girish, is that there clearly was a certain inadequacy in the levels of preparedness and the ability to anticipate such an attack,
right,
which is why Dilsukh Nagar happened. That having been said, since the Home Minister has already made this statement,
right,
that the centre had issued the equivalent of a general alert about 48 hours before the incident, like Mr. Verma has just pointed out, very often when Delhi sends out an alert like this to individual state capitals,
right,
it is not actionable intelligence.
right,
Because the man on the ground wants a specific input,
right,
to say Dilsukh Nagar in front of Venkatadri Theatre, something may be amiss.
Yes.
Now that is the kind of texture of intelligence that very rarely will the centre be able to give to the state.
Absolutely.
But as an analyst, I am intrigued on one issue,
Yes,
which is that, as you rightly pointed out, the Delhi police has given us some indication that they had apprehended a suspect,
right,
in October of last year.
right,
And this person on interrogation spoke about having done a recce of Hyderabad,
right,
which means it's almost like the David Headley case,
absolutely,
the guy who went to Mumbai.
Absolutely.
And he says, I recce'd 3 places.
Right,
He talked about Abbots,
right,
he talked about Dilsukh Nagar and Begum Bazaar.
right,
So if that happened in December, and hypothetically the centre sent an alert on the 19th of February to Hyderabad as the state capital, I would imagine that today's techniques of data mining would automatically have somebody in Hyderabad saying, hey, hang on, Dilsukh Nagar, Abbots, Begum Bazaar were given as an input by Delhi,
right,
2 or 3 months ago. So should we heighten the alert?
absolutely.
Should we have more constables there?
No, but the question
More
is,
people who will inform the police about objects. So I see this, as I'm saying, as an area where the assessment perhaps was not as rigorous as it could have been. But let me add quickly in hindsight, Girish, that I'm not trying to find fault with the local police.
right,
They are under their own pressure. More often than not, state capitals do VIP security. So let this investigation be complete. The Home Minister has said something. Delhi police has said something. I hope the NIA can go into all these details and find out if there was any substantive lead that could have allowed the state police to have worked in a more effective way.
Okay, okay.
I have a point on the constitutional issue. Shall I come in now or later?
You can make that point quickly, Uday, here only.
If I could do it very quickly, I want to endorse what Mr. Verma has said, which is that we have a serious conceptual issue here, which is that when India had a different security challenge, external was external. It could be looked after by the Defense Ministry, by the RAW, etc. Internal was Home Ministry, local police, and the IB provided certain inputs. As an analyst, I make the case for you that over the last 20 years, India is dealing with a proxy war. We are engaged in war even as we speak. And here the internal and the external have got synergized in a very complex way. So to say that the center does not have a locus and police is a purely state subject is an issue that has to be revisited in its constitutional framework. I thought I would submit that for you.
Okay, the issue of NCTC and all, will come back to that. Vinay Kumar, do you find it interesting or strange that this interrogation report has been leaked about this suspected Indian Mujahideen person which the Delhi police is apparently interrogated him?
Yeah, when such an incident takes place, Girish, everyone will claim that they had some prior information, some indication. But as our two earlier distinguished panelists pointed out, that it is all, passing the buck. That I had told you so. And since it is not very specific intelligence, it is not actionable. Now Delhi police says that there is this IM suspect who was arrested for alleged involvement in Pune blasts, and he's lodged in Tihar jail, Maqbool, and he had told Delhi police that he had recce'd these places in Hyderabad. So it would have been of very crucial interest to Hyderabad police. But I'll make a further point. Somewhere down the line, our core policing has suffered, and the person on the ground, he is not very clued in, and therein lies the fault. When the core policing is not taking place, from where the local police will get the intelligence? If you don't have good relations with the local population, if you don't inspire confidence, if you don't inspire, their trust, who is going to trust the police? And the intelligence flow suffers in such a situation. So it's very easy, to say that we have multi-agency centers, MAX and SMAC, subsidiary MAC, and then the intelligence flow takes place among all the states. But it's more of a routine now. What Mr. Chidambaram had galvanized the machinery. I think it's going back to its sluggish ways.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, anyway, we are not joined by Dr. Manisha Sethi, fellow at the Nehru Memorial and also secretary of the Jamia Teacher Solidarity Forum. Manisha, coming to you. Yesterday, the blasts happened. In matter of a few minutes, hours, we had people say, the media was full of Indian Mujahideen being involved in this and things like that. Do you see a pattern here?
Yes, absolutely. If you remember the last time there were blasts in Hyderabad and Makkah Masjid was bombed, we saw the same kind of reaction. Everybody from Huji to Lashkar was being blamed, from Shahid Bilal to who have you. And then, there were scores of young men in Hyderabad were rounded up, illegally detained, tortured in private farmhouses and elsewhere. And then you have the realization that, it's somebody else actually who's involved. So I see a pattern repeating, and I think that's a pattern we'll see everywhere recurring in terms of media, jumping to conclusion as to who's responsible, ammonium nitrate or not ammonium nitrate, ammonium nitrate
RDX or no RDX.
Yeah, absolutely. So, initially it was that, RDX is only obtainable to Islamic terrorists for some reason, but then you had the, there were reports in the newspapers that actually Colonel Purohit also had access to RDX when he was, in the Kashmir, when he was posted in Kashmir. Yeah, so I mean there is a typical pattern, and it's becoming very, very tiresome now. I mean it's beyond anybody's comprehension why the media fails to really learn from its past lessons. They've been, egg on media's face quite a few times now. I mean, surely there is time for introspection and reflection and learning.
Mr. Verma, isn't this a disturbing trend which within minutes or hours of something happening, then there is this speculation going on, and these kind of leaks come out of the police itself about the interrogations and things like that. Do you see any motives behind this, or what? Or as Vinay was pointing out, this "I told you so" syndrome. Is it that, or is it something more serious?
There is a complex set of factors working here. The need for feeding information 24 hours a day. So many channels are there operating for 24 hours. They have to have information. They will find some ways of collecting information. Otherwise, how can they operate 24 hours? So they will meet whatever contacts they are. They will cajole them, persuade them to release whatever little information they may have, and they will build up a case on it on very flimsy foundation. So this is a reality that we face. As regards the leakage, well, in this very case, how do we know what all this person who was interrogated has talked about, how many recce's he may have done,
right,
how many places he has recce'd? Now, do we have a list of all that? Supposing there are a dozen of them, there must be a dozen of them at the least estimation. Now, if you have information that 12 places have been recce'd, how do you keep monitoring these 12 places? You don't have the staff. You don't have.
Mr. Verma, my question is, how reliable are these interrogation reports?
They can be fairly reliable. In fact, interrogation report is one of the established sources of intelligence.
Right.
Not only information, but intelligence. It depends on the techniques. Who interrogates? How he interrogates. It's a regular skill which has to be acquired by investigators. Not all investigators have this skill.
Okay. Okay. On that score, I think we need to go into a short break now. We'll come back and continue this discussion. There are several other issues which needs to be discussed. Please keep watching. We'll be back very soon. Welcome back. We are discussing the Hyderabad bomb blast and asking the question, why has the terror raised its ugly head again? Commodore Uday, Bhaskar, about this instant speculations which occur when these kind of things happen. You have done a lot of study, you have done a lot of research on these issues. Indian Mujahideen, is it an organization which has the kind of strike capacity which we are all made to believe, or has there been any concrete evidence of their involvement? Who is this Indian Mujahideen? We have been hearing about it for a long time.
And two things, Girish.
One more. Sorry, Uday.
Yeah.
Just one more question. You can answer both. Do you think that there is a direct link between the hanging of Afzal Guru and this? What happened in Hyderabad Blast? What happened in Hyderabad?
Well, let me put it this way: that first of all, the group itself, the Indian Mujahideen, it is a fairly, I would say, amorphous kind of an entity which has come into the focus, and the intelligence agencies have been tracking them. And there are various assessments about the structure of the group, its cohesion and its credibility.
Right.
Now, over the last few years, as I said, different states have come up with individual assessments about the presence of this particular group and the ideology it espouses.
Right.
Now, personally, I believe that much of this goes back to Babri Masjid in 1992 and Godhra, which happened almost a decade later. This is my assessment about the IM as a group.
Right.
Now, most, I think, I would say slightly with some dismay, that in the last decade, there has been a lot of knee-jerk and very hasty conclusion in pointing fingers to the IM or any of its other affiliates without substantive evidence.
Right.
So as a result, and I think Manisha had brought this point up, very often, whether it's the media or some other quarters, they point fingers at the group either directly or allude to it.
Right.
And this is not proven when the case reaches its logical conclusion.
Right.
So as a result, the police and the local investigating agencies lose credibility and are accused of being partisan and also anti-Muslim in their approach, which is a very corrosive fact in India.
Right.
And finally, on Afzal Guru, my own reading is that because of Afzal Guru and the kind of sentiment it had aroused, that perhaps in a city like Hyderabad, which has its share of communal both tension and violence, and in the light of the hate speeches that had been made just over the last few weeks, perhaps the local police could have anticipated a post-Afzal Guru reprisal in a more effective way than what we have seen, in which case, I repeat this point, Dilsukh Nagar should have come up on the computer screens of the local special branch as an area which had been identified by Delhi police based on the interrogation of this particular IM suspect.
Right. Okay, Vinay, do you know what is the mood in the Home Ministry now after having seen what has happened? Now, after having claimed that we had given this kind of advance information and nothing happening, now what Uday Bhaskar says that it should have been natural for the local police or the local intelligence to have seen some connection.
Yeah, but when this kind of information flows from one police force to another in another state, I think it is only but natural that the recipient police organization takes note of it. And then, as you know, when Mr. Chidambaram had put this mechanism into practice, there are meetings of subsidiary multi-agency centers every day. Daily briefings are held.
Have they stopped now, Vinay?
No, they are going ahead with MAC meetings. There is no question of stopping. Yes, NCTC is stalled. There is no forward movement on that because, of political opposition to it. But the machinery, the security apparatus is working. But, in a situation like this, India is a vast country and it's really very, very, very difficult. I will say it's nearly impossible for anyone to pin a finger down and say, hey, here is the place where you are going to have a bomb blast day after tomorrow or, on such and such date. It's not possible.
Vinay, one more thing. You have been a journalist, you have been covering the Home Ministry and you have been looking at these issues for a very long time. The kind of speculations which come up immediately after this, something like this happens, from where does it come? What are the motives? Who are the people who are leaking information? As Mr. Verma was pointing out, 24-hour channels, the demands of the 24-hour channels, so information is sought out and things like that. How do you look at these issues?
I would certainly agree with Mr. Verma's, the point, and certainly there is pressure, and when people look for answers without going into concrete evidence, without establishing the chain of events, which the investigating agencies have to do. This is what happens, hasty conclusions and the tendency of one-upmanship that, we broke the story first and we came first, we said so, and our guess was right. This is all guesswork. You see what happened in Maritime Blasts.
Absolutely.
Innocent people were, the CBI is now, getting rid of those charge sheets which were filed earlier.
And same case in Hyderabad also, as Manisha
in Hyderabad also, Makkah Masjid, 2007, that year we saw 2 deadly bomb explosions in Hyderabad. Then the Pune blasts were there, then the Delhi High Court blasts were there. Everywhere, it's very easy to point a finger out and say, such and such organization is behind this. And in fact, in a court of law, unless and until you establish the charge of conspiracy in 120B and you chain of events is established, it's the case, falls flat. And this is what has been happening, in Malegaon 1, Malegaon 2, what NIA is now looking after it. And sadly, NIA is also riddled with so many cases of terrorism, but it lacks infrastructure. It lacks, the well-trained manpower.
Okay. Okay.
So these are some of the issues which should be addressed immediately, I think.
Right. Mr. Verma, there is this report today in today's newspapers about the NIA giving a clean chit to a suspect in Bangalore who incidentally happened to be a journalist. He was a journalist of a leading newspaper. Yesterday he has got a clean chit from NIA because he had been arrested for some, and branded as the mastermind of the terror plot, and he has got a clean chit now. Now, why do such things happen? Why do such haste takes place? Or do you think that there is some motivation? Because there are a lot of people who think that there is the security forces have become communal. Is it true?
I wouldn't say that, but you must concede that there is always a tremendous pressure on the investigating agencies to show instantaneous results. And they get mistaken, they commit errors like anybody else. And then
but these are very serious errors.
Sorry?
Serious errors.
Well, serious errors are also committed. We just saw the Home Minister apologizing for a statement that he had made. So even important people who are supposed to speak with responsibility commit errors. So
right.
If an investigating agency commits error, we should not be surprised. Of course, this should not become a pattern that always errors are being committed one after another. No, they have to be careful about what they do. But if the pressure remains, the public, the government, the media, the academia, everyone breathing heavily on the shoulders, then there is a compulsion to show some result.
This haste is...
And so haste comes in.
Okay. Manisha, last words to you.
Well, I'd like to make 3 or 4 points. One on the question of, media trial. It's not as though it's just the media which is going after the investigating agencies and, getting information out of it. The agencies are themselves quite interested in actually conducting a media trial on the accused. Because the case is fought as much as in the media as in the courts of law.
Right.
And in fact, we see, we've, as you know, JTS has documented a lot of cases where we've seen that even those charges which were not finally found to be in the charge sheet were attributed to the accused in the media trial. So it's not as the media is making these things up. These are actual leaks coming out from the security agencies. And the agencies have an interest in conducting a media trial so that, as you know, the bail stringents are very
and also, as Mr. Verma says, wanting to show they want to show results.
It's not simply about showing some results when a blast takes place, because as you know, our most recent report, Framed and Acquitted, shows that actually people were picked up, arrested, illegally detained, tortured, and so on and so forth, even without any blast taking place. There were people who were framed without any connection with any real event, because we have in UAPA the central argument is of conspiracy,
right.
And conspiracy which may or may not have actualized into an event. So that gives a lot of leeway to investigating agencies to frame people. That's happening. If we continue to deny it, fine, but that's happening. And on the question of Indian Mujahideen, I would like to say that all that we have today is charge sheets and those emails which were purportedly sent by the Indian Mujahideen cadre.
Operatives.
And beyond that, we really don't have anything, any empirical evidence, any proper research to back up the theory of Indian Mujahideen.
Okay. On that note, we have to end. But when such a tragic incident happens, I think everyone needs to be a little more sober and wait for investigators to do their job instead of putting huge pressure on them. And as Mr. Verma says, pressure means haste, and haste can lead to a lot of errors. And so let's hope and wait that the investigators will do their job well and find out who is behind this, because the nation should be interested in knowing what has happened, but we'll have to wait and watch. Thanks to all my guests, Commodore Uday, Bhaskar, Vinay, Kumar, Mr. A.K. Verma and Manisha, Sethi. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on The Big Picture, same time on Monday.